Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Foxy and this is Foxy Books and Planning. Today I'm doing the mid-year book Freakout tag, which Books with Emily Fox does every year. So I did take this from her and I will link her video for this year down below. She has done this for a couple of years now and I really enjoy seeing what she has to say. And since I've read a decent number of books so far this year, I figured that I might as well go ahead and do it this year and start doing it for years to come. So thank you, Books with Emily Fox, for giving me this tag to do. And let's get into it. So the first question is, what is the best book you've read so far this year? And I really had a toss-up between two of my books. The first one, I have the physical copy, which is Thrawn by Timothy Zahn. This is the first book in a prequel trilogy to Zahn's no longer canon Star Wars sequel trilogy of books. I'm not sure what they're actually called, but the first book in the trilogy is Heirs to Empire. And so this gives you the backstory of Thrawn and how Thrawn rose to power in the Imperial Navy. And I really, really enjoyed this book. I've always enjoyed the Timothy Zahn's Star Wars novels. I enjoy them a lot more than I enjoy the other Star Wars official novels. And I really enjoy Thrawn. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, even though I think he needs to be in more Star Wars things. But so this was one, and then the other one was Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo, which I did as an audiobook. And these two were really hard to pick out. I ended up going through my lists and pulling out all of my 5-star reads for the year. And the question for me wasn't, was this the best book I ever read? My question that I used for this was, how excited would I be to read this again? And Ninth House and Thrawn were at the top of the books that I would read again. Some of my 5-star books, I like them, but I'm more interested in the sequels than I am in reading those books again. Ninth House is about a girl who can see ghosts, going to Yale as part of the secret societies, where the secret societies are performing magic, and she has been essentially given a scholarship to Yale to be one of the overseers of these magical secret societies. And there is a mystery element and a murder and a disappearance, and it was amazing, and I'm looking forward to book 2, and I really want to go back and get a physical copy and reread it to see what else I can notice in the book. So the next prompt, book 2, is the best sequel I've read so far this year, and that one is Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. Thunderhead is book 2 in the Arc of the Scythe trilogy. I did read books 2 and 3 in the first half of 2020, and I really did enjoy Thunderhead much more than Toll, and of the 3 books of the trilogy, it's by far my favorite. So the next question is, what new release haven't you read yet but really want to? And this one is kind of a cheat because most of the books that I'm really interested in haven't come out yet this year. So I went with The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Hopefully I will get this edited and posted before I finish this book. I went out and bought it the first day it was available, so June 2nd. And I've started reading it, but I'm not super far in. So I'm not counting it as read. But this was by far my most anticipated of the books that have come out so far this year. I had a couple others that I considered, but this is the one where, like, I went out and bought it the first day I could because I wanted to read it so badly. I nearly restarted my Book of the Month membership just so I could get this book. But I'm enjoying it so far, and I'm looking forward to finishing it, and I will let you all know probably at the end of June what I thought about it. Alright, so the next question is a long one, which is, what are your most anticipated books for the rest of the year? And I have a fair few, some of which come out at the end of June. some of which don't come out until October, November. So I'm just going to read off the list for you. So we have The Invisible Life of Adele or Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. I believe this is a standalone, and the only thing I know about it is that there is a Faustian deal which causes the woman to live an extended life. Very excited about that one. Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which is about a girl going to a mysterious house in Mexico where her sister lives with her, I'm assuming, husband and husband's family, and things are off. It gives me a lot of kind of Crimson Peak vibes and a lot of the really Victorian Gothic novels that you get from like the late 1880s, 1890s, where socialite goes to a mysterious house and things aren't right, and either horror or thriller ensues, one of the two. The next one is Home Before Dark by Riley Sanger. Not sure what I'm expecting from this book. All I know is it's about a woman who goes back to her childhood home that is possibly haunted. But I really enjoyed reading Final Girls by Riley Sanger, and his other two books, Last Time I Lied and Lock Every Door, are on my to-read lists. So this is one that I'm really interested in picking up and reading because while I didn't enjoy the full twist of Final Girls, I really thought that Riley Sanger had some really interesting ideas and some really interesting concepts for his novels, so I want to read more. The next is The Camelot Betrayal by Kirsten White. That's book 2 of the... What is this? Sorry, I have the first book next to me. The Camelot Rising trilogy, so that would be book 2. I bought book 1 and read it at the beginning of the year, and it's one of my favorite books I've read so far this year. And I've already pre-ordered Camelot's Betrayal, so I'm really, really looking forward to it. The next one is Silvered Serpents by Roshani Chokshi. That's book 2 for the Gilded Wolves series. I just finished Gilded Wolves at the beginning of the month, and it's one of the best YA fantasies I've read in a while, other than Guinevere Deception. And I'm really looking forward to seeing where this story goes. We've had a really good setup. We've had a lot of really interesting characters. And I just want to see where it goes and how the long-term mysteries unravel. The next one is Troubled Blood, which is book 5 of the Cormoran Strike series by Robert Galbraith, aka J.K. Rowling. The Cormoran Strike series is one of my favorite detective series of all time. It's probably my favorite of all time. And I'm planning to reread the first 4 books in August. Because Troubled Blood, I believe, comes out at the end of September or early October. So I want to reread the entire series before it comes out so I can refresh my brain on what has happened going into Troubled Blood. I know nothing about it. Nothing has been released other than the title and the date it's being released. But that is one that I was super duper stoked about. I haven't pre-ordered the book yet, but I probably will. And if not, I will be at Barnes & Noble the first day it is available to buy it. And then the last book on the most anticipated releases list is Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson. This will be the 4th Stormlight Archives book. I've adored all of the Stormlight Archives books, and I'm really excited for the next chapter. And that is one that I know I'm going to be dedicating a large part of November to, so I'm going to try and clear out my reading lists as much as possible so I can dedicate November to Rhythm of War. Oh, yes. Lots and lots of books. Lots and lots of books. So the next question 5, is what is the biggest disappointment that you read this year? And I'm not sure if this is a surprise or not, but my least favorite book of the year was Damsel by Elena Arnold. And this is basically because it had a really interesting premise, but the book didn't really have anything happen until the last 10 pages. And there were a lot of trigger warnings and a lot of unnecessary things in the book where I felt like things either weren't explored, were brought up and then completely ignored, and then the ending was just no. Like that book probably could have been a novella and I probably would have enjoyed it more. But I went into it thinking it would be a much more interesting novel than it was, and it did not cover the topics that I think it was trying to cover in a good way. Next is my biggest surprise for the year, and so my biggest surprise so far for 2020 goes to The Gilded Wolves by Roshani Chokshi. This is one that I bought last year and just finished reading not too long ago, and I think why this surprised me was I've had a lot of bad luck with YA recently, and by recently I mean the last couple of years, where I'm either getting too old to read YA, which I think is kind of weird, or I'm just not enjoying the YA themes or storylines as much anymore because they all kind of get repetitive. But with this, I loved the magic system. I loved the characters. I liked the representation of the characters. And it was just a really good heist book. And I'm really excited for book 2. And when I initially read it, I read the first chapter and wasn't super excited. And then when I read the first 50 pages, I was like, oh. But I was worried because a lot of times when I read the first bit, I get really excited and then something happens in the last half to third of the book that just completely ruins it for me. And this kept me on the edge of my seat, so I just wanted to keep reading, and that is why it is my biggest surprise. All right. The next question is, who is your favorite new author? And this could be debut authors or new to you author. And with this was a really hard question for me to answer because I've read a lot of books and a lot of authors who are new to me this year. Not so many debuts, but a lot of new to me's. And so I approached this by saying, which authors am I most excited to read more books from? And by that, I mean, which authors were the ones that immediately after I finished reading them, did I want to know, A, what else they had written, and B, when the next book was coming out. And so for that, I guess it's actually a three-way tie now that I think about it, would be Alyssa K. Adams, who is the author of the Bromance Book Club. I'm waiting on the waiting list for book 2 and very, very, very excited to read book 2. I'm not normally a romance book kind of person. I'm very weird with my romances, and the Bromance Book Club was just so refreshing and a very interesting take on a romance novel that I was really excited to see where Adams went with the series. The other two shouldn't be really a surprise based on this, would be Kiersten White and Roshani Chokshi. Kiersten White is probably the third of those three. If I had to rank them, it would be Roshani and then Lisa and then Kiersten. Because Roshani, I really want the second book to come out. And I really want to go back and read her Rick Riordan, Hindu, Percy Jackson series. Kiersten White, I'm really excited for book 2 of Camelot, but looking at the other things she's written, I'm not as excited about the other things that she's written. I'm mostly excited about the Camelot book 2. So, Roshani, Lisa, Kiersten, in that order. Newest fictional crush is the next question. This one was kind of weird because I had to think about it, because I don't really get attached to book characters unless they're big, long series, and I haven't really read any big, long series that are new to me. So it became one of those where I was like, oh, what character sticks out to me? Like, what character pops into my head as one of my favorite fictional characters that I wouldn't mind, like, going on a date with? And that one would be Enrique from The Gilded Wolves. And so Enrique is one of the members of the crew. He's a side character. He's their historian. And I found him to be a really entertaining side character that I wanted to know more about his backstory. And when we do get more of his backstory, I was very intrigued. And I like the relationship that he forms with, I forget her name. God dang it. Sophia. I like his relationship with Sophia as well. And I think he's probably he's not as well formed as a lot of the other characters, but I really enjoy his character. Severin would have also been a good pick for this category, but I liked Enrique more than I liked Severin. All right. The next question is newest favorite character. Of the books I've read, new characters to me would have to be Lancelot from the Guinevere Deception. And part of the reason I like this so much is because of what Kirsten did with Lancelot. Lancelot in this book is a woman who is not straight. To me, at least, the sexuality is still up in the air. Some people might read her as gay, but I will believe it when I see, or not believe it when I see it. Please cut. But regardless, I really enjoyed her as a strong female character and a strong female with autonomy to act on behalf of others, and her strong moral code and her interactions with Guinevere once Guinevere figures out what's going on. And even still, the questions surrounding Lancelot before Lancelot is revealed as Lancelot, and how quickly Lancelot is like, I will be your knight, I will protect you. She's got to be my favorite character I've read so far this year. Number 10 was a really hard question for me, and the question 10 is, what book made you cry? So I don't typically cry reading books, because I don't typically read a lot of depressing books or sad books or books that I know intentionally will make me cry. There are some books that I've started reading, started sobbing uncontrollably, and just walked away from, because I don't like to cry when I read, because I want to enjoy what I'm reading. But if I had to pick one of the books I've read so far this year, it would be In the Garden of the Beasts by Erik Larson, because this does cover some pretty heavy topics regarding the rise of Nazism, fascism in Germany in the 30s, and anti-Semitism. And some of those sections were really hard to read. Especially when they talk about some of the things that the Nazis did in Nuremberg during the 30s, and some of the situations that the family that you're following see, and you're just like, oh my God. Because a lot of times, like, we all know the big propaganda items, but it's the smaller scale things and the things that don't necessarily get taught in, at least in American schools, as part of the Holocaust and sort of the run up to the Holocaust. And that was just heartbreaking to read, and it was depressing, but it's history and it's what happened. And part of reading nonfiction is to read about subjects that make you uncomfortable, because that's what history is you have to be able to learn from it and move and take it and move forward with what you've learned. All right, happier topics. Book that made you happy is the next question, which the happiest I felt reading this year so far would probably be reading Undeading Bells by Drew Hayes. This was Fred the Vampire Accountant book 7, and my spouse and I had been waiting for months for this to come out, and we finally got the wedding that we've been waiting for, and it was wonderful. I really, really enjoyed this book. I really, really enjoyed the Fred series, and this book coming out when it did just made me so happy. I was so excited to read it, and I was so happy when it was done, and now I just want the next book. So then the next question is, what is the most beautiful book you've bought so far? And this one was really hard because I haven't bought that many books this year. I've bought a lot of audiobooks, but if I had to pick beautiful books, would be The Guinevere Deception. Yes, the jacket is beautiful, but the actual copy of the book itself, when you take the cover off, is also gorgeous. And I almost wish I had the Owl Crate copy of this. I believe it was Owl Crate. But one of the book subscription boxes had a different cover and and binding for this, and that one is absolutely gorgeous. But I could look at this cover all day and just be so happy with my life. All right, and then the last question is the most obvious question. What books do you want to read by the end of the year? Well, this is a pretty easy answer. I would like to read all of my anticipated releases for 2020. So that would be the stuff from question 4, which all come out. Some of them come out in June, but most of them come out in October or November. I would like to get through more of my physical TBR shelf. I've been reading a lot more physical books in quarantine and a lot more ebooks, but I just want to get more books off of that shelf so that I can make room in my life to read more things. And then I also wanted to add The Hate You Give. I haven't read it, and I really want to make an effort to read it in the next couple of months. Just because of the current political climate. And the last book is Full Throttle by Joe Hill, which was his short story collection that came out last year. I haven't had a chance to read it yet, and I really want to read it this year because allegedly he's coming out with a new novel this year. Allegedly. But we will see. With that, that is all I had. Please comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of my takes. I would love to have a constructive conversation in the comments down below. But with that, I do hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all in another video. Bye.